Everything was closed. There was no way to connect with people. The offices were closed. And like I was going trying to do some door knock. I'd be knock on the door and people would be like, what are you doing here? I'd be like, oh, I'm a realtor. Here, do you want a card? And they're like, no, absolutely not. We don't want any of your information. Like, get out of here.
What made people buy so much houses in pandemic?
You know, the Atlantic was kind of regarded in the pandemic period, I guess we'll call it. And, you know, we've started to see them creep down a little bit, but I'd be shocked to see interest rates come back down below 2%.
Tell your customers about like what should they buy right now, should they made right now.
Date the rate and marry the house, because you can always renegotiate your mortgage rate. You can't renegotiate the price you paid on your home.
So how do you want to tell people is like if they want to gather the knowledge about the real estate industry, want to study?
Like I said, it's a big investment. You need to be willing to take a hit for 6 months to a year to make one sale, and that's not going to feed you. That wanted to buy a place on the water. The average price point to buy a home in the Halifax regional municipality is $575,000 and change. They wanted to buy a house on the water within 30-40 minutes of Halifax for $400,000. I was just sharing with your colleague, I used to be in consumer packaged goods
Okay.
with Unilever Canada. So if Unilever, well, you guys are marketing students, so you guys should probably know who Unilever is. They're a big CPG company. They do like $60 billion a year globally. Here in Atlantic, I was the district guy. I started as a rep, actually, starting out. Covered most of Nova Scotia, South Shore, all the way up to Antigonish. Covered their retail portfolio. They own like Axe, Dove Soap, Tresemme Shampoo, Ben & Jerry's, Klondike Popsicle, Magnum Novelty Bars. And I started out as a rep. And then as I kind of progressed, my district manager at the time, Rick Monroe, he was slowly kind of handing stuff off to me because he was kind of, I think, looking to make his exit of the business.
Okay.
And then I kind of took on the district management role, managing primarily the gas and convenience ice cream business, but also had a hand in leading the sales team for the large format retail business as well. So like Sobeys, Superstore, Walmarts, Shoppers, and all the other little accounts. I also was the key account manager for the like Wilson's and some small C&G accounts across Atlantic as well. And I was also tasked with the distribution for all the ice cream in Atlantic Canada. So we had like Agripor was our sole distributor, and we'd ship everything to them because we didn't have like a dedicated warehouse here. So we'd piggyback off of Agripor for that. So come September 2020, I was sharing with a colleague. I got a call from my director, which I had a good relationship with, Mike Guindon. Kind of gave me the nod that, you know, I knew the restructure was probably going to come because they're always looking to cut resources out of Atlantic, move things to Toronto, you know, national business scope. We're 10% of the population. Therefore, we get about 10% of their investment. So they're always looking to kind of re-centralize things back to Toronto. So I knew it was kind of a matter of time. And, you know, no offense to people living in Toronto or if they're from there, but like I'm not a Toronto guy. I got offered to move if I wanted to, and I just couldn't do it. So they said kind of thanks for your 8.5, almost 9 years of service. And yeah, they treat me pretty good. They give me almost a year worth of severance and kind of give me the opportunity to kind of dive into the real estate business. Always had an interest in it, originally investing interest. But I did kind of explore getting into the industry when I was first starting my job search. I knew my roommate was dating a girl and her father was in real estate. And I was always kind of a little curious, so I kind of hooked up with him and he gave me kind of the lowdown. And so it's all commission. There's no pension. There's no benefits. There's no salary. It's long days, evenings, weekends. And at the time, 20-year-old Chris was like, ugh. I need rent money, beer money, and I want to hang out with my friends on the weekends. So I wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, it just sounded too scary. And then, excuse me, sorry, just getting over a little bit of a cold. But, you know, my grandfather, which I highly regarded and respected, he's since passed. But him and my father was always like, you got to go to university, which we're sitting in St. Mary's, get a degree with a job and a pension and benefits. And, you don't want to work with your hands. They were lobster fishermen, carpenters, electrician. They're like, oh, this entrepreneurship stuff is it's tough work. Like it's, essentially telling me it wasn't for me. But deep down, I was like, well, man, guys, you guys look like you run your own schedule. You're the boss. Like, seem like you guys are living pretty well. We didn't want for anything as kids. Looking back, like, I never thought we were spoiled, but 36-year-old Chris is like, yeah, maybe we were a little spoiled, but anyway. And so, yeah, here we are today. Been in the business since 2021. Haven't looked back since. And, I love it. Get to help people, whether it's the first purchase they've ever made or the second or the third or the fourth. Maybe they're local. They might be moving across the country. So it's a very fulfilling role as a realtor for me. And you just get to meet all kinds of different people, look at a bunch of cool different styles of homes, and every day is different. That was the thing with me in corporate life. Unilever job, like I could have did that job 3 days a week. After 8.5 years, you can kind of get pretty good at what you do.
Yeah.
Or you might be doing something wrong. So, so yeah, it was. I think it was time for a change, and
No.
I always welcome a challenge, and I like to do hard stuff, and starting your own business pretty tough. So, yeah, here
That
we
is,
are.
but yeah, no, I think, just like I haven't asked, but like I got to know about your journey, and that is pretty seems good to me. And it's like that thing that you did was not expecting to happen with the job and quitting, but that end up leading you to this industry where you are an entrepreneur now. So like that's how things happen, and you kicked in well. So yeah,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
the things are going good. And so like, but what do you feel about, as you are in the industry, you have been there a while, but as you said, you started in 2021, but after that COVID hit, and I feel like after that market has been very unstable because of the inflation, the interest rate
Mm.
changes sometimes. So what do you feel about the real estate marketing? Like it's constantly changing. What do you comments on that?
Yeah, it's tough. It was definitely tough, especially starting in 2021. We were kind of in the peak of the pandemic, and
Yeah.
some people were like, "Oh, well, you should have did awesome like in your first couple of years." The pandemic, like stuff was, you'd list it and then it'd be sold in 2 days, 3 days, and right now the average days on market is like 42.7 days, whereas like in 2021, a house would maybe list on a Wednesday and it'd be sold by Sunday, or maybe
Really?
before. So it was a very hectic time to start as a new realtor. Everything was closed. There was no doing this.
Yeah.
There was no way to connect with people. The offices were closed. I unfortunately started at I'm with Remax today, but I started at another brokerage. Um, and I shouldn't really say, but maybe it was the time, maybe it was the uncertainty, maybe, a lot of people are navigating, some uncharted waters with the pandemic and all the restrictions. I just didn't find there was a lot of direction from them. No mentorship. So it was really tough kind of to get started, just because of the lack of, you couldn't do open houses. I tried door knocking even, and it was pretty funny. Like I even went as far as like I was wearing gloves. I had like my cards in like a Ziploc bag. I was wearing the mask, and like I was going trying to do some door knocking just around my community too, just on my crescent. Like we're in Middle Sackville, and I'd be dunk 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 knock on the door, and people would be like, "What are you? Whoa! Like what are you doing here?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm a realtor." And they're like, "Here, do you want a card?" And they're like, "No, absolutely not. We don't want any of your information. Like get out of here." So it was definitely challenging. Another layer of that added to that is, we've had a housing shortage for quite a few years here.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately been neglected by the government. That's a whole other story. So oftentimes we had under a month of inventory. Right now we have around like 4.4 months. So essentially what that means is if realtors stopped listing homes, let's just talk about today,
Yeah.
in 4.4 months, there wouldn't be one listing for sale in HRM. So when we're in the pandemic, we only had like a month or like 0.9 months of inventory. So anytime you had a client that wanted to go see X house that was nice. Well, everybody else in Halifax was going to see that house. So then it just caused this tremendous amount of competition and bidding, and the interest rates were at an all-time low, like sub 1%, under 2%. And unfortunately, people went full crazy because they had nothing to do but buy stuff on Amazon and I guess look for houses because, money was cheap. And that's a way that they were trying to keep the economy semi stimulated, I guess. I'm not an economist or a financial analyst, but that is one way that they try and
So
counterbalance
what do you
recessions.
so what do you think? Like, I was not there at the time of pandemic in Canada. I was back in India. But what do you think? What made like the housing go crazy during the pandemic? Like you said, it was just getting sold in like 3 days. So like, what made people buy so much houses in pandemic while like right now that nobody's ready to buy? I know interest rates are high, inflation is there. In a pandemic, like it is also I don't think so was a time of like investing that much in the houses. Or like what was the market up here? Like what made people buy so much stuff?
Yeah, I think, and I mean, you probably ask five different people to give you five different answers. But for me, the Atlantic was kind of regarded in the pandemic period, I guess we'll call it, as like one of the safest places to be because we had all these rules, all these bubbles, and we had kind of the Atlantic bubble. We could still travel a little bit, but it was still restricted to how much we could do in our COVID cases were I think some of the lowest in the country. So we kind of got a lens put on us as like the place to be,
Okay.
Halifax. I think we've kind of been, kind of hidden behind the limelight for some time. Like, the East Coast is pretty cool, coastal city. It's beautiful. There's lakes, there's water everywhere. And I think, we kind of just were kind of in the shadows for a while. So when COVID come and, Atlantic Canada was kind of talked about quite a bit throughout the country, it just caused this influx of people wanting to come, whether it was from Ontario or Quebec or, from abroad. We just had this huge influx of demand of people that wanted to come in. And, with our already limited supply, it just really put a strain on the real estate market, which low interest rates, immigration started to become a thing. A lot of people wanted to be here. Um, so when you kind of look at just general economics, we had very low supply of homes, very high demand for them, and we just couldn't keep up. So that's essentially where like, one nice home would come and you'd get like 27 or 30 showings. Like I was in situations where especially stuff under the average or around the average price point, you'd get, 17, 20, up to 30 offers. In one situation, we had bid with a client 100,000 more than the asking, and there was 17 offers that were 100 plus,
Yes.
which was
That's
told to me by the listing agent, and it was just it was a very challenging time for especially for buyers because and agents because we've never experienced anything like this. Like yeah, there was Ontario and some maybe hot pockets in Halifax. You might have some competing offers, but nothing like 100,000 over asking or 150 in some cases. Like I've had clients that had to bid, on a $300,000 property. We had to bid 150,000 to get it. Um, yeah, it just
that
just made things really tough.
that is a crazy change because yeah, I haven't heard about that because I know like the market about the real estate or investing was pretty much dead because people were like, we don't know what's going to happen. Everyone was short on salaries and
Mm.
stuff and expenses, and COVID was another hit. And yeah, that's amazing to know about the Atlantic that people end up buying so much houses that even you being a real estate new agent that just getting like people boom and 150K on top of a house of over asking, that is crazy thing to go with. But what do you feel about the market trend now? Because like after that, like immigration like being a very big thing, and there was a really shortage of houses, like people could not find a place to rent on. Like literally that was a case, and there is a lot of building got made. But now as Canadian government is increasing immigration a lot, like there is less people coming in, and now I feel like the renting apartments, like there is a lot of rent places getting available. So like the trend is getting decreased. So what do you feel about the real estate marketing headed to now?
Yeah, so I guess the one thing that's kind of settled things, I guess, for better or for worse, is we had, all-time low interest rates, and then inflation started to get a little out of control. So one method of like trying to control inflation is higher mortgage rates, interest rates. That tends to stem down some of that inflation. So we went from like a crazy real estate market where people basically thought they had free money at like 1 to 2% interest rates to, I think what did we have, like 9 interest rate hikes. Um, so it really kind of slowed things down a little bit in terms of like the craziness of the market. Some people maybe use the term a bit more balanced, but we're still ultimately a seller's market. Some people were saying it felt more like a buyer's market, once we seen some interest rate hikes. But at the end of the day, it's an inventory thing when it comes to looking at whether it's buyer or seller's market. And we're still with a quite a low inventory. So what you're seeing right now is I think there was a little bit of hesitancy in the market in terms of buyers. With the interest rate hikes, a lot of people were hoping they'd come down. And we've started to see them creep down a little bit, but I don't think you'll ever see interest rates. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future, but I'd be shocked to see interest rates come back down below 2%. Are they high relative to what they were? Yes, but also we're comparing against historically low interest rates. So when I bought my house 12 years ago, our interest rate was around like 3.5, just under 4%. And the last I checked, were interest rates are between 4 and 5. So we're almost there, but it is kind of still keeping some people out of the market because they're really hoping for those interest rates to creep down a little bit more. But, as interest rates do drop, well, that gives everybody more buying power.
That's
So as interest rates drop and people have more ability to purchase, um, I get a little weary if they drop too much that we might not be 2020 crazy, but we're seeing it a little bit now where, like I have a listing in Spryfield. We're listing, at 3999. It's a little semi. It's a nice, great spot. And, we have like 20 showings on it and it's just got listed yesterday. So, if interest rates start to creep down, like, we may, you know, see that kind of tick up a little bit because we're holding offers and, I'd expect to see like at least half a dozen or so competing
I
offers.
did got to know about like few of the real estate agents that I know that the interest rates are going down, and I think they recently announced something as well that the interest rate has went down some by 25
We
cents or
just had
some
an interest rate drop of 50 basis points, so like
50
a
base
0.5%,
half a
which has
percent.
been the biggest decrease that we've had to date. Usually that was like a 25 bit or 0.25% decreases. So, and one of the big things is inflation has been back in check. Usually the inflation target, we're trying to be around like 2 to 3%. And I think we're creeping around closer to 2% right now, which is good. So that's where they're kind of easing up on these rate hikes and more so decreases. But they've been very careful with how fast they're bringing them down because, like I said, if they cut too fast, then I think it's going to put a lot more pressure back on the market, the real estate market here in
Real estate
Halifax.
market, that's true. But like, how do you like tell your customers about like should they buy right now, to the made right now? Like how do you be transparent to your customer about like, is it like something that you just buy right now, sell right now? Do you sometimes tell your customer you should wait, or like how do you deal with your customers that you feel that's unique to you?
I mean, case by case, person to person, it's going to be, specific to their situation. Um, a lot of stuff that I hear right now, it's like, Chris, we want to buy, but we're kind of waiting for the rates to come down, save a bit more money, which if you're saving and you don't quite have your 5%, because, you look at 5% on a, $500,000 house versus when I bought my house 12 years ago, 5% on a $212,000 house, which is now worth 450 to 500.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot more. So if you're saving, I get it. It's expensive. Like, you know, basically what I try and tell people, especially if they're like, oh, interest rates are too high. It's like, I always say my little saying, and I stole it from a buddy of mine. It was date the rate and marry the house. Because you can always renegotiate your mortgage rate. You can't renegotiate the price you paid on your home.
That's definitely true because yeah, like you can't renegotiate and you need to know about which house
Yeah.
you're looking for because you're investing like 30 years of your house, like
Right?
life.
So think of this. Do you want to, you know, and this is what I try and like gently kind of propose to some of my clients that are a little resistant. And it's like you can't force anybody to do what they don't want to do when they want to do it. So, you know, everybody's waiting for these rates to come down. But like I said, we have very low supply comparatively, and we have super high demand because immigration's way high. Everybody wants to be here. So would you rather pay more for the home? So let's just say it's listed at five, you know, the average right now for a home in Halifax Regional is 575. So would you want to pay, you know, close to asking with the rates how they are? Or do you want the rates to come down closer to 2% and have to pay 100,000 more than what they actually have on the sticker price or the list price?
True.
Because once you pay, you know, even if it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 100 over, you can't go to the bank and renegotiate what you paid for the home. But if you get in the market right now, you buy something for relatively close to ask, because right now, 27, almost 30% of listings are going for over ask. You know, you could either pay a little bit more at a, you know, 4% interest rate, we'll call it. And you could do a 2-year term, you could do a 3-year, you could do a 1-year, you could do the 5-year. Well, guess what? At the end of that term, you can renegotiate. And
True.
even if you feel like it's high and maybe you got it fixed and the rates go down, you can talk to your mortgage broker. And generally, the penalty for breaking a mortgage is like 2 or 3 months interest. So sometimes if it's a big drop, it might be beneficial to break it, you know, remortgage and redo your amortization, and you might come out still ahead. So my big thing, I try and tell people, and it's tough because everybody, you know, wants to make their own decisions. And, you know, unfortunately, I hate to make the comparison, but I feel like people, you know, look at realtors like one level above like greasy used car salesmen. So they're always thinking you're just trying to make you buy something, which is like, you know, I'm always looking out for the best interests of my clients, which is to find them the best house, the best property, the best location, you know, for the best price that fits their family's needs. So whatever your opinion are, realtors, you know, that's not me. But like, yeah, you gotta, I personally think it's better to buy now, because if you keep waiting for those interest rates to drop, you and everybody else will be out to look for houses, and competition will be higher. There'll be more competing offers, and that 20% over list price will probably be creeping up closer to 30, 35, 40%. You know, and I forget the stats at the time, but I know we must have been up to 50% of homes going for overlist in 2021.
Yeah, I feel like then you might get the right interest rate, but not the right house that you were looking for. Because then, if you wait too much, that if you find a property, you should go for it. But then again, I agree with you as like people see real estate as a salesman agent, and but I feel like people are also insecure because like because housing, like some people do buy houses for investment, but most of them just buy it as one time, like, and that is like their whole life savings stuff that they're going for like most of their life, and 30 years goes just in paying for the house. I feel like if the real estate, like you said, your approach is, which is good, is like you knowledge about people, about the market, you tell them what's going on, should they buy it, should not they, instead of just start selling. Because again, you will make money, I feel like, in a real estate industry if you are giving more knowledge rather than just aggressive selling. Because it's a house, like there is no 30 days exchange or return, that if you've sold someone or something wrong they can just come back
No,
and tell you it's like, hey buddy, I
there's
don't
no
like it.
return policy.
Yeah, exactly. So like I feel like people in real estate needs to give people that, like, trust that if they are buying it, like it's their choice and not your choice, that you are upselling them something or what's like that.
Yeah, and you nailed it. You got to kind of, frame it up that they're making the choice because oftentimes I know I'm a tough sell. So I have to believe that I'm making the choice and I'm not being sold. And I mean, I deal with, a million SEO marketing agencies. They're all calling, telling me they're going to make me all this money, generate me all these leads. And you know what? I don't know if I call it make the mistake, but I have give a few a try. And, I've been nothing but disappointed, unfortunately, because, there's a lot of scams out there and a lot of people that'll kind of sell you the moon and, they don't really deliver on it. So,
And being honest, like if we talked about the marketing, like I feel like the best approach to give your client is like give them the realistic facts. Just be like undercommit and over deliver rather than over committing and then not delivering what
that's
you
just
even
the
talked
key.
about.
That's
Yeah,
the key to
that's the key.
sales.
And yeah, that's the key to the sales. And what I feel like in marketing, it's like some people just want to like again sell you, but like how like we want to operate is something like marketing. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 2 days, 3 days. It's a procedure that happens over time. And while you're sitting with your client, like if you are not having like couple meetings with them talking about their vision, what they are looking for and what you can give it to them, instead of just closing them, you like again you can't stay with that person long,
Yeah.
because like how we want to market is like we want that client to stay with the 6 months or a year long. And if we don't have what exactly he's looking for, like we just don't want to close him, because if we can't make a difference, because what I sell to a people is like, if you hire us and if you're paying us X and you're not making X plus Y at the end of the term, then there is no point of having a marketing agency. If your business is already making X amount, but having the agency still keeps you at the X, then you are getting a loss. You need to have X plus Y that covers the cost of marketing and make you extra on top.
Yeah, you got to have your ROI, right?
Yeah,
You have a return on investment or it's really not worth anybody's time.
exactly. Like if my business is already running, like why I want to have someone else on top of for expenses, right?
Mm.
But with real estate, like as you said that you were a young kid and you want money for the beers, you want money for other things. And I feel like as we are in a university, there is a lot of, because I feel real estate is very fascinating. You feel like it's big bucks, big cars,
Yeah, it's
rich
the new
guys and stuff.
sexy thing to
Yeah.
be. So you're a
Yeah.
realtor now, right? And
Yeah,
what?
realtor now. But I think people don't understand that you might not make, like COVID was a good time, but like right now, like you might not make, like you said, it's 4.9 for a turnout for a house to sell, and then after that is like you might actually be have to paperworks, and if you're in real estate, you might not make anything for a couple months or first year. I know about realtors who are in a real estate industry and did not sold a house in a whole year.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, that's pretty common. It could take a year, it could take 6 months. And I think it's like anything. It's like you're building a business.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm under the Remax umbrella, but I'm still my own contractor. Like I run my own business. I pay fees to Remax. There's a split, and some people think we make all this money, but they don't really understand the full structure. And I can only speak in terms of full service brokerages. I got in trouble for this one time for a video that I did. There's some discount brokerages out there. If that's your jam, go for it. I don't think they're, really the way to go, but some people only have a finite amount of money. Um, and that works for them. But when you work with a full service brokerage, you got to understand if you want to list your house, generally the listing fees are between 4 and 6%. Usually half of that goes to the buyer agent and half goes to the listing agent. So when you sell your house, the listing fee pays for both my commission if I'm the listing agent and then the agent that's representing the buyer on the other side. Some people think that full 4, 5, 6% goes right to me. So they automatically think we're super overpaid for the level of work that they think we do. But it's like you said, there's a lot more stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And then, there's also, the other aspect is to work with Remax, they take a cut. And then the tax man takes a big cut, you
Yeah.
know? So, it does take quite a few transactions throughout the year to really make your business viable. And for people starting out, yeah, it could take 6 months, could take a year to get your first deal. And it's like any business. You read any business guru or their books or watch their videos, they're going to tell you if you don't have 4 to 5 years to dedicate to building any business, whether you're a realtor, you're a mortgage broker, you're a personal trainer, you give, guitar lessons, it's going to take some time to build the business. It's not going to, yeah, you know what? I shouldn't say some people get in, and I don't want to say lucky, but they might have some kind of competitive advantage, or they just hook into something and they catapult their business, quicker than some. I've seen it happen. Um, but yeah, generally it takes time. Anything worth doing is going to take time. It's going to take investment. It's going to take dedication.
But I feel like according to the Gen Zs we call like the new generation, like I feel like with the social medias and stuff, I was talking to the other person I had podcast as well as like their time span has decreased so much.
They're what? Sorry.
Like time span, like the focus or the time they can put into a thing is decreased like so much that even if like you are showing them, let's say a podcast or video, like if you don't interest them in first 5 seconds, they are gonna scroll up. And that same thing with the businesses, like after showing like the overnight successes on Instagrams and other thing, because no one showed you the hard work. The only one everyone show you is the luxury, the fascinating thing about the real estate as we talked. And but once you dive in, you see the hard side, a dark side, and that's where I
Yeah.
feel like people don't realize that earlier, and they just want to do something. So what advice or what would you want to say to a newcomer or someone like a students who want to join a real estate is like
Yeah, you
what they
nailed
should
it.
be prepared for?
You nailed it. The generation coming up today, and this is kind of my love hate with social media, and so it's really broke down kind of some of our barriers of communication. And it's allowed us to touch people, whether they're in Halifax, whether they're across the world, um, and we're always looking for immediate gratification.
Yeah,
And to your point, you mentioned Instagram, social media, TikTok. It's always the highlights.
yeah,
Look at my listing I got. Look at the house I just got my buyers. Look at my fancy new car I got from my real estate earnings or whatever. Nobody sees the behind the scenes of you sitting in front of your computer trying to figure out how you're going to do this. The door knocking you do in the neighborhoods where people either don't even answer the door and you see them sitting in their chair, or the note and they slam the door in your face, or maybe you're cold calling, trying to drum up business, and people are just rude or just not very receptive. Like, people don't see the grind. They don't see the hustle behind the scenes that has to take place. They think being a realtor or an entrepreneur or an influencer or whatever it is, because they're following XYZ people that have made it, they
yeah,
think it's, oh, well, they're going to make it. So for anybody that I talk to or that watches this podcast, is you really have to practice delayed gratification, because nothing that you do today is going to pay out tomorrow.
exactly.
You got to fill the pipe. You got to fill the pipeline. So podcasts, tips and tricks on buying and selling real estate that you put on your Instagram. Yeah, I'm fortunate. I've got a decent amount of traction with that. A lot of good leads come through social media, and I think that's why it's important. But don't expect things tomorrow. It might be, and I mean, probably not a week, probably not a month. We're talking months, years, a couple years. Somebody that watches this podcast today may reach out to me in a year and a half. Maybe they save the video, maybe they're not quite ready. So you never know. So you really got to be okay with doing all the upfront work and not getting much return, because
True.
this is a big business in terms of delayed gratification. So ignore what you see from all the big shot realtors and even stuff on my page, because there's a lot of work to get to those points. And if
Yeah.
you're not willing to put that work in, go do something else.
Yeah, and I would say like So people to see those videos, you have to see that there was a person who was doing a COVID door knock with all the mask, and people were saying just go
Yeah,
away and we
me.
don't
They're
want you.
like, no,
And that's
what are
what
you
I'm
doing here?
saying
Whoa,
is like,
whoa.
yeah,
Like,
and that's what I was like. That's what people don't realize is like you gotta do those things because the gurus that they are watching is they're making money out of you by selling their courses that how to make a millionaire, and
right.
you are making them instead of you
Yeah.
actually hustling out. But what do you like? Because I know like people has a time span, the only thing they go for everything is like explain me this thing in 10 minutes. And so like, but I know there is no course for how to be a real estate in 15 minutes, right? So how do you want to tell people is like if they want to gather the knowledge about the real estate industry, want to study, you did your courses as well, right? So like what was the best way if they want to start knowing and learning about the real estate for the new agents or the newcomers who wants to explore this side?
Yeah, and I think, kind of learn from my mistakes. I have a good buddy of mine. He's one of my good friends. He works for the brokerage that I started at. And just because somebody works for Remax or Royal LePage or Keller Williams or Coldwell Banker, just because they're your buddy and that brokerage works for them, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right fit for you. So I naively just was like, oh, if that's good enough for my buddy Don, I'm gonna sign up with them. And I really shortchanged myself on doing, the proper amount of research. If you're interested in real estate, like I said, it's a big investment. You need to be willing to take a hit for 6 months to a year to make one sale, and that's not gonna feed
Mhm.
you. Like,
Yeah.
so you need a good. First off, if you want to get in real estate, save some money. You're gonna need about 6 months to a year worth of savings to really handle it, or a spouse or a partner that's willing to help support you. Different at your guys' age than at mine. Like, I was fortunate. My wife has a great job. She does very well. We had some money set aside. I had a severance, so it allowed me some of that flexibility. And although I put a lot of pressure on myself, it does give you some of that, flexibility to get out there and not make money for a while to focus on the business. Um, I'm getting away from myself here. I would advise anybody looking to get in real estate is, number one, like I said, understand it's not going to happen overnight. Two, do your research. Go call some brokerages. Call Remax. Call Cheryl Canning. That's our recruiter. Um, she can give you all the ins and outs of what you need to know. We have prep courses that you can do with the brokerage to prepare you even before you go and actually physically sign up to do the real estate course. Try and see if there's a family friend or somebody in the brokerage when you're talking to these recruiters, whether it's at Remax, whether it's at Royal LePage. Can you go shadow them? Go work with them for a day or two or three. Do an open house with them. Um, if you can't get that, maybe if you're still a student and you want a intern summertime position, I know Remax does it here and there for the summers. Maybe go do like an administrative position at a brokerage. Learn the ins and outs of the paperwork, the administrative process, and in that time, you may build some relationships with some other realtors in there that you might be able to learn from. So I guess at the end of the day is don't limit yourself to just like, oh, okay, I Google real estate in Halifax. Oh, Remax. Okay, that's the one. Now I'm biased. Obviously, I'm with Remax. I think it'd be a good choice, but do your homework.
Do your
Just because
homework.
Remax is good for me doesn't mean it's going to be good for you or you or you. Maybe Royal is good. Maybe EXP. Maybe Coldwell Banker. I can't make those choices for people, but I know that once I started doing the proper research and landed at Remax, it was a good fit for me. I got the mentorship I needed, the direction I needed, and that in itself was a good ROI for my business. Um, so yeah, do the research, read some books. There's the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I think it's by actually Keller Williams, which is actually the name of one of the brokerages because he's one of the founders.
Yeah.
There's $1 Million Real Estate Investor. There's a slew of books that you can read on real estate just to try and get a feel for what you should be doing for lead generation, how to build your business, CRMs, how to keep in touch with your database. That's a big thing, is adding people to your database constantly. So you're always, I try not be too annoying with useless garbage like spam emails, but this Sunday I have a Santa event for people that have kids. We have it at the office. Santa comes, they do pictures. It's a big thing. Client appreciation. I do a Christmas party. That's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. We call them doing touches with our clients. Always trying to add value.
Value to your clients.
It's like we were talking before, like just trying to hard sell someone. A lot of people don't really like that. You have to try and demonstrate some degree of value.
Because it's a house and you call it a dream house, right? And if you're selling it to that, you can't sell. Like they have to choose and pick one. And if they feel like that you are selling them, like again, like no, most of the people don't have 2, 3, 4 houses that they can just change or resell. Like people want to live and they want to make a home out of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're looking for. And they are looking for, like, I see people want more of a partner to guide them. Like real estate agents, I feel like is also a partner. Like you're selling them a life, right? So you have to be a partner rather than an agent. Is like you have to give them a dream of, okay, like what it's going to be look like. Because I have heard stories where like people sold them the houses at the wrong interest price or not the exact house they were looking for, and now they can't do anything anymore, right?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the major problems with the whole pandemic and the low interest rates and the super crazy competition and competitive bids, is because sometimes if you're moving here, you need a house. You need to stay somewhere. We had under 1% vacancy rates for apartments. Rents were also way up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I felt bad because some people had to buy a house, and sometimes they just bought the one that was there because that's all that they could get versus what they actually wanted. So I think the whole pandemic and that whole situation left maybe not everybody, but I'd say quite a few people a little jaded in how they had to purchase
Got it.
their home.
Do you ever had like any clients where like they have very unrealistic expectations from you while buying a house or something? That story you want to share?
Yeah. I have had some clients with some unrealistic expectations in price points for areas. Not so bad, but more so. Well, actually, no. I did have a client that wanted to buy a place on the water,
Okay.
and like I shared before, the average price point to buy a home in the Halifax Regional Municipality is 575,000 and change. They wanted to buy a house on the water within 30, 40 minutes of Halifax for 400,000.
Okay.
And it was a pretty tough conversation because I was like, well, Miss Customer, have you done your research on price points and areas? And she's like, oh yeah, I've done my research. And I was like, okay. I go, well, just for example, like we took a home equity line of credit against our home that we bought 12 years ago in Sackville for 212,000. Since the whole pandemic and the whole appreciation event for real estate across the board here in Canada, but Halifax specifically, we wanted to do some renovations and we just wanted to have a home equity line of credit. It's like a line of credit, but it's against the equity that's in your home. So it's a way to access some of that anyway. Don't want to bore you too much on that. We had some renovations we wanted to do. So we wanted to have access to that just in case we needed it. And I was like, hey, Miss Customer, like, our house is worth $450,000 according to the bank. And the cheapest home that I've sold on the water is $800,000. And it was listed at $750,000 and we had to pay $800,000 for it. So I go, you're a little far apart from what's realistic to what you're looking for. Because like, I don't know if you could even buy a piece of land on the water for $400,000.
Makes sense.
So, and oftentimes people are just uneducated in terms of, not uneducated like they don't have education, but like they're just not educated in regards of like what their budget is versus the price of things and what they're looking for. So oftentimes the hardest part of being a real estate agent is telling people what they don't want to hear.
True.
You know, because not everybody's as informed, not everybody is as savvy with, you know, real estate and what their money can buy and what's realistic and, you know, different. And every area is different, you know. Um, Everything's expensive, but, you know, like Sackville, you know, original Sackville is always been looked at as more affordable, which is why we bought there 12 years ago. It still maintains that, but it's still worth, houses are worth twice as much as they used to be there. Cole Harbor, same thing. Always been viewed as a bit more affordable. It's a bit more on the outskirts of HRM, but things are worth twice as much there. You start looking at West Bedford, Brunello, which is like the new subdivisions in Timberley. These are the new kind of high end new construction homes. You know, you're getting anywhere from $699 to $800 to $1,000,000 to $2,000,000. So it's important to understand the price points in different areas, the different types of lots, whether it's on the water, water view, waterfront, ocean view.
Yeah, people don't get it. Like that thing changes a lot because like I know like you're looking for detached, fully semi, and people don't know like they have higher expectations of they want this much rooms and stuff,
Yeah.
but they don't know like location and like even moving like 4 streets down the road is changes the price point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's, you know, some of that has to go back, some of that onus has to go back onto the buyers and the people to do better homework. But yeah, it was a tough conversation with that lady. It was like, you're way off. You're under half. You
Yeah,
know, the cheapest place that you know, and the place we got
yeah,
the clients on for 800, you know, was like, it was a beautiful spot, but the lake, you're not putting a power boat in it, like a, you know, with a motor. You might be, you know, paddle boarding. You know, there's rocks. It wasn't the biggest lake. You know, and for example, we were looking at another place in Colby in Dartmouth on Bisset Lake, much smaller home, uh, beautiful lake, but that one was sold for 850, and anything else in that area was like 900 and above. So
just like
it's really important that you know, if you say you did your research, it's just like,
so.
did you really?
What do you think? Like, if people are looking to buy a house, like, what if you say like, let's 3 questions, like, what people should be asking to the real estate agent, just so they know, like, okay, if this is the right real estate person that I should be buying from, or like, if real estate agent got to know about the person from that, so like, what questions people should be asking about
Like
as the
me, if they
first.
want to do business with me, or if they just are looking to buy a home.
Just if they're looking to buy a home and they want to like chat with the real estate agent, but like I know like most of the people don't know like what to ask, what to chat about, or like stuff. So
Yeah.
if it's like the best things to ask, because like again they also need to know the factor about the right real estate agent, if that's the person that okay they should be going with, because sometime like you might find a person who's just trying to sell and he's new to the industry and don't know about your requirements. So
Yeah.
what question you think people should be asking about?
Well, first off, they should call me.
So
But no, but in all seriousness,
yeah,
it's always wise, like in anything else, like if you're, like I said, if you're looking to get into real estate, talk to multiple brokerages. Yeah, if you want to call me, awesome. But I'm always a big proponent of getting some different lenses or some different opinions. Um, but yeah, talk to a few different agents, because like you might be working with these guys or girls or whoever for, could be a week, could be a month, could be 6 months, could be a year. It really depends on what you're looking for and your price point, your budget, you know, the amenities you're looking for in a home. So you really want to make sure that you're going to enjoy working with said person. So, you know, oftentimes I'll bring new clients or potential new clients out for a coffee and we just have a quick chat. I like to get to know a little bit about them, their family life, their home life, what they like to do. Do you like running? Do you like the outdoors? Do you know, do you have kids? Then that's going to dictate whether they need to be around, you know, accessible schools, good schools. You really just got to let us know kind of, you know,
what are you
your
looking?
situation. Like, what do you do for work? What do you like to do in your spare time? What activities, you know, encompass your extracurricular life? And it's really kind of just like almost like a show and tell, like just to get to know each other. And, then it'd be my job to kind of direct you in terms of like, well, maybe you don't even know what your budget is.
True.
Well, number one, start going over that. How much do you have saved? Do you have any RSPs? Um, your monthly liabilities. I would get all that stuff on a spreadsheet. And then the next thing I would do is, if you don't have a handle on your budget and you don't really know, I would get you in touch with one of my trusted mortgage brokers that I work with. And that's really the best first step. Whether you do that before or after you meet with your agent, maybe you meet with the mortgage broker first. It's always good to start with an understanding of what you can actually afford. And then you can work on like, okay, well, we have X amount of money. Hey, Mr. Realtor, this is what we have for a budget. This is what we're willing to spend in that budget. This is what we like to do. And this is kind of what we had in mind. What is your recommendation on an area and or
So it's
some
just like you have
homes?
to be open up with the realtor. Like you can't be like
You
not
can't hide
discussing the
anything.
thing and like
Yeah.
yeah, like you got to be open about how much you earn, what you want, what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because then again, then only they can find you the right place that you're looking to be your dream home. So yeah, but what do you say? Like I have seen like me being in Canada, like Asian countries, I have seen like a lot of people do have their homes. But while I came to Canada, I've seen like not like people buy their home and most of them are like living still on rents. I know people who are like doing good jobs 30 40 20 years old or 30 40 50 as well, like don't have any savings for the house. Like there's like we don't have any money savings. Do you want to like anything that you want to like say to the people as a real estate agent? Like if you are looking to buy a house, it's not the planning doesn't start like right away. It's not a window shopping thing. You have to be planned years ahead that okay, like I'm looking to buy. So anything that you want to tell on those factors?
Yeah. And before I say what I'm going to say, like keep in mind I was one of these people too, and I still struggle with it. Like I like to spend, I like new stuff. I like new phones. Like I just got a new phone. The one thing that I would tell people if they're having a hard time with saving money to buy a home, or they're always, I've had friends, oh, I can't save. It's too expensive. I'm outpriced, got priced out of the market, but they're eating out 3 times a day, 7 days a week. They're going out downtown with their friends and like getting all the nice Instagram photos of the partying. And maybe they rent, but they drive, I have multiple people like this. They drive like a super nice Mercedes or a BMW. And it's like, stop trying to look rich and start doing what
Think
you need to
rich.
do to build the base so you can actually buy your home. I'm not saying it's going to make you rich, or I don't mean that in any kind of way, but oftentimes people are more concerned about looking like they have money versus saving for the big thing that they really want, which is maybe the house or the whatever it is. So I think people just really got to reel in their spending, and I think a lot of people really live up and above and beyond their means. And don't get me wrong, before people come at us in the comments, like I was that guy too. If I seen something and I was on I worked for Unilever, I made good money. I knew every 2 weeks I'd get X amount of dollars, and if there was something I wanted, I went and bought it. 'Cause, I don't know. That's just how I was in my
Yeah, I
20s.
think like with that, like the best statement would be like not look rich but think rich.
That's
Because
it.
if you have a right
Don't look
mindset,
rich.
then if you
Think
think rich,
rich.
yeah, then you might be able to actually be able to build assets.
Yeah.
Because the car is going to be a liability on you once you don't have a job. Like the thing you said, like it happened, they paid you for a year, but like you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
COVID comes up, a lot of people lost their jobs. Now even like I know a lot of tech companies where people are getting paid good, but they're cutting off staff because it's AI era. Like
Yeah.
if you want to look rich but don't have any savings, like you never know what happens in your life s- in a second. Like
Yeah, yeah, and that's it too. And like big car payments, guess what? Banks look at that as liability.
true.
It really diminishes your buying power considerably. So, yeah, do you want the nice fancy car That's $1,000+ a month. Yeah, I'm sure you do. Everybody does. I do. But
But is it the right time for you to have that car?
right,
If it not, then
look at your monthly liabilities. Netflix, Prime, Disney, Paramount, DAZN, all these monthlies. Get rid of some of them. You don't need all of them.
true. Yeah, it was a
You know,
serious conversation. Let's do some quick fire round. I'm just gonna ask you a few questions.
yeah.
Just answer me whatever the first thing comes up in your mind. Let's do a fun round. So, any dream location that you love to sell a property in?
Portugal.
Portugal? You're fascinated by the Portugal?
Yeah, me and the wife have been wanting to get over there for quite some time, and I've had a few friends that have been visiting, and it just seems like a cool spot. And we want to visit, and I've just been doing some research, and it just looks like somewhere
That's
I'd
nice.
like to be.
So, what's the most unusual request you had from a client ever made?
Um, I don't know if it's like the most unusual, but like I had a young guy that didn't have a car, and he wanted me to drive him around to all these showings, which I guess was a thing back when back in the day, we'll say. But yeah, I just being a chauffeur, I didn't think was part of the job, I guess. But,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun request. I
Right.
won't say unusual, but a fun request to
Right.
ask for. But yeah,
And I will say I did drive him around a couple times because I was just
So-
starting out.
see,
So-
now you know that if you have the best realtor,
Right.
like you
That's
can get
it.
some extra drives
That's
as
it.
well, so you
That's
don't have
it.
to spend. So
Whatever,
they might save
whatever
you
it
in coffee
takes.
and gas
Right.
to get you the best home. Yeah. So what's your go-to hobby when you're not working?
Oh man, I was talking with my wife about this. I have too many. Jiu-jitsu is my main hobby. I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu,
Ooh, that's nice.
but I also really enjoy golf. I'm not that good at it, but I like
enjoy
it. And I'm a pretty big outdoorsman. Do a bit of running, and I love to do some hunting. I just come back from a hunting trip just
That's-
shortly after I think you got in touch with me.
Okay,
So,
that's nice. That's amazing. And yeah. So what's the best part of your job that you feel?
yeah, I think the most fulfilling and rewarding part of my job is, finding people whether it's their first home or their second home or their forever home. It's just really finding what works for people, building long-lasting relationships, and finding them the best home for the best price in the best location that works for them. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's the most fulfilling thing for any realtor, and it's definitely mine, is finding people what they're really looking for and seeing them happy. I always love to get photos or messages about, how happy they are, or new renovations that they've done to make the space their own, or whatever, whatever have you in that regard.
No, that's also a good emotional touch of your part, and that's why you wanna sell the best to a person, because that the
Yeah.
happiness and the thing that you're giving them. And I even feel like that the real estate and like the mortgage people I was talking about is like those are the industries where like it's less than of a market and more of like referrals, because
Mhm.
Halifax is a very small market as far as I have explored, and everybody might know everyone in some sense.
Mhm.
And if you are not like, because like if it's a product, if it's defective, like again you can do a return exchange, but the housings and those things are not no return exchange. You have it, and you are like gotta stay with it. And with that, if you mess up with someone is buying things from you, they're gonna definitely do a background check on you, as well as like, okay, how well that person has been or what they have been
Yeah.
doing. And feel like you are not just building up a 1 day or 2 day, like it's not a job that you're doing with Remix. You said you're building up your own business, and if you're building up a legacy, what you do right now is going to definitely come back. Like a person you sold a house, he might have friend, he wants to refer to you, but then if you mess up with that person by not sending them the right house, those are going to kill out your referrals. And then
Mm.
those people can hear words about, okay, that person did the wrong and that person did the wrong. And that was like, that is a very like thing that people has to think on, because you are seeing it as one house, but that is their only house that they're looking to buy.
Yeah. Yeah, and the best compliment to a realtor for doing a good job is always a referral business.
Exactly.
There's nothing that says you did a good job more than, here's my friend, they're looking to buy or sell their home, and
Exactly.
we think you should work with them. So,
Yeah. And okay, so another question would be like, if you would have not been in real estate, what you be doing?
I think I would have went and did mortgages
Mortgages?
because I originally was looking pretty hard at mortgage broker
Yeah.
when I was first out of university, but I didn't have any. One, I was a marketing major, so I didn't really have a finance background.
Yeah.
And mind you, they seem to be taking on more mortgage brokers with less experience now. But when I was young, maybe it was because I was young, I don't know, but I was trying to get into the mortgage world and I just wasn't getting any traction. Um, but yeah, I think I could have hung in there for mortgage broker as well.
The last one. So any famous or any realtor that you idolize upon, that you feel like is okay, yeah, that person is doing nice and I should learn from him. Or
Yeah,
maybe it can be anyone.
honestly, I mean, my mentor is Naz Clamy at Remax Nova. He's one of the broker owners. I think if there's anybody that I model against today is definitely how he does business. He's very thoughtful. He's always thinking of other people. Very seldom is he thinking of himself. I mean, obviously he's thinking of his business, but it seems like he's always trying to add value. And if you ask anybody about Naz that's worked with him, they always hold him in very high regard. So, if there's anybody that I look up to in this industry, definitely Naz. And I can't not mention my buddy Don Rainey. He's the guy I talked to first about real estate when I decided I was going to get into it. Um, he's also very good, very thoughtful, always thinking about ways to add value, and he always answers the phone if I have a question that I'm having trouble with. So definitely Naz and Don are two guys that if I could even come close to a semblance of what they do with their business, I think it'll be a really good career for me from here to the end.
That's nice. So do you see yourself like doing real estate in long term, or do you have other plans that you think of?
I think I'll always be in real estate as long as I'm still willing and able-bodied to do it. I definitely have some investment goals. I think I alluded to that a little bit earlier when I
Yeah.
first started getting into thinking about real estate. We have one Airbnb, which was used to be our garage, which was single car attached. We converted it to an Airbnb. This was throughout the COVID period. And that was kind of, my wife's very frugal, so baby steps for her. So I was like, hey, I want to start investing. Let's take advantage of this program, convert the garage, and I'll show you that, we can do this. So I guess the short answer is I'd like to be investing in real estate. I'd like to have, as many doors as I can handle in terms of rentals. So that maybe one day when I'm a little bit older and I don't maybe want to push so hard on the real estate sales side of things, I'll have that rental portfolio I can kind of fall back on.
That's nice. Pretty much your last question is I have seen a lot of real estate like agents end up going into construction industries that they start building up their houses and something
Like
the
development.
or house flipping and stuff. Is that something that you have thought about, or like what's your comments on those?
House flipping, definitely. It's just tough right now with the amount of competition. I found you got to have the right team. I do have a really good buddy, and he has a business partner. They're contractors, and we've briefly touched on maybe partnering on a few deals. We just have to find the right place that makes sense. Maybe a tax sale, but they're risky too. So you got to have the people that have the know-it-all to if we get in a sticky situation in terms of a renovation. Because there's always surprises in renovations, right? You start ripping stuff apart, you really start to see the issues. But yeah, house flipping, definitely. I think that might be, part of like the easier transition into investing. Maybe you try and do a few flips. Maybe that's where you generate some of your money for the down payment for the building, for the apartment. So yeah, definitely thought about it. But time will tell for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it was a nice conversation with you. It was good. So, like, do you want to tell anything to audience or people before, like, with the closing? If like any suggestion or any advice that you want to give specifically?
Yeah, I think in terms of real estate, just guys do your research, ask questions, talk to a couple of realtors, talk to a couple mortgage brokers, really understand like your financial position before you get out there in the market, because it's pretty fast and furious right now. And if you're not ready and you don't have your mortgage pre-approval to know what you have to work with for finances, you're going to be behind the ball and you might get stuck in some hairy situations because, there's buyer conditions, there's deposits. Those are always at risk to not be given back, especially if you're far along through a process and something happens just before closing. So yeah, do your research. Don't hide anything from your realtor, your mortgage broker. Like at the end of the day, you're signing a contract. It's all bound by confidentiality. I can't tell you what you make, your budget. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest hurdles for people is they try not tell the whole story, and then that's where you kind of run into some sticky situations, and deals go to hell in a handcase, for lack of better words. So just be open, be honest, and I know it's hard to put trust in people that maybe don't know, or you've known for a very small amount of time, but just if you find the right agent, they'll get you where you need to be. You just got to put your trust in them. And that's what we're here for. So
No, that was amazing piece of advices that we got from him, and yeah, it was nice learning. And yeah, if you're looking for mortgage, he was planning to do it as well. He might start with you. Just give him a call for either the mortgage or the real estate. But yeah,
no,
no, it was amazing advice I got to learn. And the first thing I would say, like by talking with him, is the knowledge is the major key while you are just getting your house. Exchange knowledge with your real estate agent, either get it or give it, because if you are not both transparent, then there is an issue.
yeah, it's two-way
and
street.
and then you know whom to call and ask him about, as like, hey buddy, like we do that, and just be transparent. Otherwise he knows what he's doing, and just ask him a lot of questions, just ping him after that.
Yeah, there's
And
no stupid questions,
no stupid question or car rides. But
right?
yeah, if there is something, you might get some extra benefits, but not that much.
Right.
But except that, if you want to end up saying anything to the newcomers in real estate market, anything, just a close up.
Like people looking to get into real estate or buying.
Yes. Because I know I have been in university and everyone is fascinated. It was like, oh, I want to be a real estate agent. So if you want to just some close up, anything for them.
Yeah, definitely do your research. Like I said, interview some agents, interview some brokers, owners, go to different real estate brokerages, talk to people, see if it's a fit. Make sure that it is going to be the right thing for you, because it's a big investment of time, of funds, and just remember that everything doesn't just happen overnight. It's going to take some grinding, it's going to take some hustling, and it's going to take you to learn that delayed gratification, because we're not all on Instagram. It's not all highlight reels. There's actual work that has to get done. And although real estate is like the new sexy thing that you can make a lot of money doing, there's a small percentage of agents that do a lot of the big business. So, you got to be patient. I know I have trouble with that sometimes, especially when I first started out. But yeah, delayed gratification, that's the biggest thing. It's going to take time. And if you don't want to give it the time, then I suggest you do something else.